Hey there. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Finto Antony. I'm a data scientist working with Regions Bank. What I'm going to talk today is kind of a data scientist perspective on a data product journey. So it's a use case, very high level on a consumer retention study that we did within Regions Bank, and kind of walk through what kind of some of the uh, kind of my data science perspective, data scientist perspective on how a data product look like. Some of my experience around it, and kind of give you what a data product idea around what a data product is. Some of you may know about it. And just bear with me today because I'm not. If I'm not loud enough or clear enough, just let me know because I I figured out how to pop out my eardrum last night. So just bear with me on that. So as an agenda today, I want to talk about what's a data product and why we're using it within regions, and go through case study. Before that, just to set a context, um, as I said, I'm a data scientist now, but by training, I'm a forest biometrician. I graduated with a PhD in forest biometrics from the University of Georgia. So, and I started my career in industry. One thing I noticed was, like there is a lot of silos in the organizations, and the we have fragmented, right? Like, there is always projects kind of deal with one objective at a time, rather than like for example, you have a bank, consumer, not all the consumer, there are subdivisions within consumer organization. Not all of them are talking, and we have fragmented project that's coming through. But I think a data product approach that I've seen here within regions that's kind of solved that problem from my experience. So with that, I'm going to move on to what is a data product. Kind of a brief explanation. So a definition that I could find is from DJ Patil, the Chief Data Officer under President Obama administration. A product that facilitates an end goal through the use of data. The other one is there is an article by O'Reilly publication company that derives value from data and then produce more valuable data, which makes absolute sense. Most of the time we use data, we pump in, we pump out data. And a data product could be, wide range of things, right? It could be a raw data, you're using your source data for making some decision. Could be a derived data, could be, one example is like loan to value or debt to income to make some loan, credit underwriting decision. Could be algorithm, when I think about a data scientist, that's the bucket most, or at least in the past, that's where I used to think about, like, okay, everything goes through model, everything needs to be an algorithm. For example, an attrition score or a credit score, right? Could be a decision support system. So it could be a combination of algorithm, derived data, raw data. You're trying to make some decisioning around it. Could be automated decision. That's kind of the Taylor, last end, where we have the self-driving cars, as an example. So that's kind of the brief intro about data product. Now, why a data product? Like I said earlier, I think one thing I've seen, there's, as you can see here on the screen, there are multiple benefits of using a data product. One is that, that organization silos, right? You have a data product for consumer, you have a data product for corporate. Well, it could be multiple data product for each group, but the organization as a whole, the whole team will be talking each other. We'll get to that when we go through the use case. The other is, it's kind of offer an end-to-end solution. So it's not like I said, it's not just an algorithm that predict something. It's going to be, there's going to be segmentation, or there's going to be insights that the business want that they can put into action. Or it could, it's also the other benefits of that is like it's an end user targeted and steered to a strategic direction. It's agile and iterable, and promotes innovation. So with that being said, with that introduction, I'm going to move on to the case study. So the case study we're going to talk about is a consumer, it's in the consumer side, an attrition study that we did. like I said, it involved multiple pieces, and it's going to be really high level. I'm going to discuss, due to proprietary reasons as well. So attrition, when we think about attrition in a bank here, what I'm talking here is kind of deposit attrition, deposit product attrition. So you got like, consumers start open up their checking, money market savings, or time deposit accounts. Well, if overall, let's assume like, again, these numbers doesn't represent, region spec attrition rate, but I'm assuming an attrition rate around 10%. There's a lot of factors that influence this attrition, right? There's, well, of course, deceased and family events that goes there. Then we got people moving from one region to another region. There is going to be, half of the attrition is going to be kind of the focus area, where we have, some of them are going to be charge off, and some of this is going to be kind of attrition that we're going to focus on, or that we need to focus on. And it's not just one factor that influence the attrition. So there are, customer service experience, or fees, or interest rate, or product diversity. So either there are, lack of product diversity, or accessibility to location. So there's a lot of factors that influence. It could be features, or it could be, like I said earlier, it could be insights that could drive some of the business value. So through this project, or through this data product, what we were trying to solve was, as I said, like one opportunity there is like, you can predict that attrition risk, but that's not the only piece of the puzzle. There's a lot of other things. One is like, can we come up with some actionable insights? Can we identify some specific segment of the population where we can put some strategy around it, so we can save those customers, or we can make them happier, or what is leading into, a lot of this, some of the customer service experience or satisfaction. So I just want to quickly touch base on this slide, is that it's not a one-man show. Again, there is like this a data product approach, like I said, it brings everything together. We have data analytics down here, but we have, different parts of the consumer organization, right, that talk each other: marketing, product, customer experience. And not only that, within a bank, there is risk and model validation teams, so the model risk management, there is compliance. So it's a partnership. It's a, the data product is a partnership. There's, actively engaging all these business groups and data analytics team, and the, compliance team, and other parts of the organization as well. Within data analytics, there is also partnership, right? So, typically within regions, what we do, we have a kind of a four pillar. Like, if we have a data product owner who typically talks to the business partners, design development, designing phase, and discovery phase of the project. There's data engineer and a data scientist, data visualization. Even though I kept them separate, they all talk each other. So it's like it's a team effort, as you can see here. So there's that personal side, and then we have the tool side. Well, it's not exhaustive. It changes over time, as we all know. Like, we start from the planning, like Jira or Bitbucket, and then we have all the tools that needed for, development, model development, or any type of development or analysis that needed, and also the implementation, continuous integration. So typical data product life cycle, it's more generic, but here, what I want to talk to you is like, it's start with the discovery phase. Like I said, it's a partnership, as mentioned earlier. Starts with the discovery phase, understanding what's the pain points are, understanding what the business is trying to solve, what's the metrics are, how they measure the metrics, and trying to understand what they want, business want. And then it's a design stage, and once it's designed and planned, then it's a development, deployment, and monitoring. There's several talks discussed about it, but it's the main key point here is that it's kind of iterative. Like, it never stops. You go back to discovery phase again, if there is something that we discover in the meantime, or it continues, the cycle continues. Kind of expanded it a little bit here on this slide. So, like I said, the discovery design stage is may heavily involved by the data product owner and the business group, with some involvement from other within data scientists and others. Is business understanding, use case identification, data understanding, and feasibility study. But the development phase, this is kind of a typical development phase where data scientist, data engineer, and visualization specialists come together, where we do the feature engineering or data engineering, development experiments, testing, and surveying, and then the deploying and monitoring again. Same team comes together and deploy, monitor that piece. So it's kind of a much more elaborated view of the previous one. But in the next slide, what I'm going to talk about is kind of connect that to the our use case, where I mentioned there are a couple of objectives we were trying to solve. One is like predict the attrition risk, right? Well, in this case, there is clearly like could be a model, could be a attrition model that predict the likelihood of customer or account closing. And here I'm going to focus only on the data scientist or data engineer side of the things. I know like there's other pieces involved, but it typically involved data engineering. Mainly the big task here is understanding the data generation mechanism, how the data is coming in. Then you can define the features or the inputs that's needed that goes into the model or whatever analysis or tools that we're trying to build, and also to derive the targets that's needed if it's a model building effort, right? Like if it's a supervised learning, the targets. This need a continuous discussion with the business partner as well, because how that target defined, how you're using the features, that's all needed some inputs, because they understand how the data is generated within the organization better than a data scientist. So that's typically for me, or as a data scientist, there's a steep learning curve that I have to do. For example, this is like what granularity you need the target at. Is it at an account level or a household level or a customer level? Is it a soft attrition or a hard attrition? What kind of exclusions you want to use? Typically some business want to use some exclusions like fraud. You want to exclude them because there is already a mechanism to identify fraud. Feature information, that's basically more understanding around how the features needs to be what granularity we needed, where's this information available, how we need to aggregate it. On the development side, I think it's pretty much steered towards our science skills, the technical skills, right? What algorithm we want to use, what kind of testing we want to use, and all the pieces. And deployment is more on the technical side. But once we develop, I think the other thing is like get feedback from the business partner to make sure that the features make sense, the model or whatever the model or tool works better, good. And as well as the deployment stage, there's a continuous feedback needs to be received from the business partners. The data scientist job doesn't stop there. It's not just model building. One thing I realized on my career is like it's also sometimes it's I put it in like an actionable insight, but sometimes the job is to test some hypotheses, experiments, do some what if analysis, understand the data better, or generate some insights that the business can put into use pretty easily. So that's also what I'm part of a data science, what a data science is trying to solve. It's not just always model building or algorithm part of it. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if there is, and thank you again for this opportunity.